Okay, let's move on to the next question, and then we'll take some questions live also. We can take it on the phone, also comments coming in on Facebook and YouTube. And here's from Rachel in Memphis. Is there a way for Americans to be able to watch Russian TV channels like Channel 1 and other main channels in Russia with English subtitles? For example, Russian talk shows like The Great Game, Vladimir Solyov's talk show.
I mean, the answer is yes. Rachel, the best way to do this, and I don't know if you're already a member, join my Telegram channel, come into the chat room and ask that question. There will be a variety of Russian moderators who are very good, and they will guide you through the process of gaining access to these channels and getting the English subtitles. A lot of this is already automated, already done. It's just a matter of clicking into the right places to to gain access to it. But your question has been asked in the chat channel several times, and I know for a fact that Russian moderators or even just informed Russian participants will gladly take you through the process of gaining access to any Russian language channel you want and helping you turn that into English subtitles.
Jeff in Baker, Missouri, do you think Ukraine is used as a testing ground for a future U.S. dictatorship? Z has pushed the envelope and gotten away with everything from banning religion and free speech to mass murder. The neocons see this. You can take USA, add water, shake, and you get Ukraine.
No, I disagree totally, because there's something called the Constitution of the United States. And as much as I denigrate the American court system, the court system still is there as a defender of constitutional rights, and I don't see Ukraine as being anything other than the horrific humanitarian tragedy it is. I don't believe that Victoria Nuland and any of those neocons are smart enough to come up with that kind of plan. And if they do, I wish they'd try it, because then we can put them in jail and maybe even execute them for treason. But no, I don't see Ukraine as being a training ground for the destruction of American democracy. We don't need Ukraine. We're doing a pretty good job on our own.
All right, let's take one more of the questions submitted in advance. And again, for those of you who want your questions to be considered for the next episode, go to scottritter.us. That's scottritter.us. After this one, we'll take some of the questions coming in live on Facebook and YouTube. Rama from Singapore. In the event Russia doesn't occupy or control the west of Ukraine, U.S. and NATO are still left with a fascist state the size of Texas that is strongly West and NATO aligned. This would continue to pose the same threat as today. What would Russia's strategy be to tackle this situation?
Well, we know that the Russians have articulated denazification as one of their requirements for termination of conflict. So I don't imagine Russia is going to allow a situation to exist where Banderist ideology is allowed to foster and fester in Western Ukraine, that any settlement that will be reached will be inclusive of a denazification process. If Ukraine doesn't want to voluntarily participate in this, then I think the war will continue until Russia gets what it wants. The Russians have said all along that their goals and objectives haven't changed. How Russia achieves that, I don't think even Russia knows specifically how that's going to happen. A lot of it depends on, when Ukraine is ready to make a deal. I think that if Ukraine continues in its current posture, they put Odessa, Kharkov, Sumy, and Dnipropetrovsk at risk of being occupied and permanently absorbed by Russia. And now we're talking 50% of the Ukrainian nation gone forever. So I at some point in time, there's look, this is an unsustainable situation. Politically, it's difficult. Zelensky's not even going home right now. Think about that. Or maybe he is home now. I don't know. I have to check. Where did Graham talk to him? Was that in
I think that was in Ukraine.
In Ukraine. Okay, so maybe he's back, but he's been gone a long time. The army is dying daily. The Russians dominate every aspect of this battle. the Ukrainian counteroffensive, it can't even get off the ground right now. So um, this war is not going well, and at some point in time, Zelensky will have to make a political decision because the West isn't going to fund a losing proposition forever. There's already a lot of pressure on him to come up to a peace treaty. When it becomes obvious that he's going to lose territory, that'll be a political, suicide for him. So I think the Russians have this under control. It's not going to be easy. I don't want to pretend that it's going to be easy. There's no guaranteed outcomes, but I think the Russians are smart enough to know what they've said. They're smart enough to know what they want, and they're smart enough to know that they need a plan on how to get there. The fact that they don't articulate in a fashion that we know this just means that they don't really care what we know or don't know, because at the end of the day, we're not decision makers. They are.
Okay, let's take some live questions. And again, we don't have Kevin curating these questions backstage as per usual. I'm just doing this myself, so bear with me. One of our favorites, Valley. She's a regular. Hi, Valley. Always a pleasure. Is it possible you would ever consider running for president? Oh boy, here we go.
No, I mean, first of all, the shenanigans that have been done to my reputation make it impossible. Not legally. I mean, there's no requirement, or there's no banning, but that would be an uphill battle. Plus, I don't want it. I had an opportunity to run for Congress, a guaranteed seat. Had I said, yes, I want to do this, I would have been Congressman Scott Ritter. Might even be Senator Scott Ritter today, and might even be talking about potential presidency for Scott Ritter. Not what I want. Washington, D.C. disgusts me. It's a corrupting process. I think people that get involved in it get tainted right off the bat. With that process, I'm 61 years old. I'm going to be 62 very soon. I'm not getting any younger. And I think what I'm doing right now is the most important work. I think what Jeff and I are doing in terms of waging peace, this project we have to bring Russians and Americans together to prevent a nuclear war, is more important than anything I could ever do by throwing my hat into the political ring.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of different ways to impart influence, exert influence, I guess would be the word.
Yeah, citizenship is defined in a multiplicity of ways. Good citizenship.
Yes. Let's see what else we have here. Terry Barnes, thank you for the donation. Thanks to everybody for their monetary donations and for tuning in. We appreciate it. Any opinions on the recent border clash between Iran and the IEA? It seems like it's being blown out of proportion by the Western media.
Yeah, I think when he says IEA, I think he's talking about the Taliban, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. Yeah, it's been blown out of proportion. Look, some people died. There was fighting, but it's not the first time. They've had clashes like this before. There's ongoing problems with, border control, customs, things of that nature. And, there's also a history of animosity between the Taliban and Iran. So, this is unfortunately one of those things that happened. But I remember when the story first came out, the Taliban declare war on Iran. I'm like, really? That would be fascinating. But they didn't. There's no war. They're going to solve this problem. So you're right. It's been blown out of proportion by the mainstream media.
Okay, I'm just looking for some more questions. Did we do this one? What do you speculate was the Ukrainian the decision-making center that was hit?
I think they said it was the Ukrainian intelligence service. But that's what I think it is. So if you want speculation, there it is. That's my speculation. The Ukrainian intelligence service headquarters was the decision-making center that was hit.
Okay, let's see if we can find some more questions. What about the general in Ukraine who has been missing? Is he still running the show?
I think they're talking about General Zaluzhny. Sometime in early May, he was visiting the front lines, and the facility that he was in, I think it was in the Kherson region, was struck by a Russian missile. Several people were killed, and it was rumored that he was seriously injured. Since that time, he has made appearances. There's speculation that he took shrapnel in the head, and that there were some procedures done where they had to remove pieces of the brain to prevent the swelling, and that's might explain why he was out of the picture for a while. That's a debilitating injury. It's hard to imagine that he's still calling the shots, but I think for propaganda and national security reasons, the Ukrainians aren't giving us the full scope and scale on what happened.
Okay. This question comes from Jamie Hidalgo. Don't know if anyone has asked, but what is Scott's opinion on the Marines attacked on Memorial Day in California?
Don't know anything about it.
For or against attacking the Marines? Just kidding. Okay, let's.
Always against attacking Marines.
I know, a little lighthearted quip. Let's see if we can find a couple more questions before we wrap it up. How is the weather in Russia, counteroffensive wise?
Well, depends where you are. But when I was in Sevastopol, it was still rainy, and I would imagine that the further north you get, there was still rain, but the sun was coming out, and it's like that old song. Up came the sun and dried up all the rain, and the itsy bitsy Ukrainian counteroffensive was off to run again. As the weather improves, the ground improves, and then the Ukrainians will not be able to use a lack of mobility as an excuse. But that's not what's hampering the counteroffensive. What's hampering the counteroffensive is that anytime they bring together any concentration of forces, it's immediately hit by Russian air power and Russian missiles and Russian artillery. The Russians have battlefield superiority and firepower superiority, and the Ukrainians just aren't able to generate the kind of mass necessary to carry out a concerted offensive operation against Russia.
How is the morale of the middle class where you visited? Was there any open animosity to you due to your U.S. citizenship?
The morale of the Russian people in general was fantastic. This is a nation united. Again, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I don't care.
Go ahead, we like trouble.
Russia, 200, 300, 400,000, who knows what the numbers are. Russians fled Russia because of the special military operation. And I think the attitude of most Russians is good riddance. They just got rid of the weakest element of their society. They got rid of mainly Navalny supporters, people who were a cancer to Russia, and they're gone. The Russians that remain, doesn't mean that they're blind, faithfully supporting Vladimir Putin. No, but they support Russia. They believe in Russia. The people that fled don't believe in Russia. They believe in something that the West wants to define as Russia. They believe in a Western narrative of Russia, but they don't believe in Russia. Because if they believed in Russia, they wouldn't buy any of the crap that Navalny's trying to peddle. There are two Russias. There is the big city Russia, Moscow, St. Petersburg, maybe Ekaterinburg, maybe Novosibirsk could be thrown in there, a handful of other cities. And there you have a sort of a political economic elite residing that are somewhat disengaged from the pulse of the nation, so to speak. They're into the money. We're making money. We're living a good lifestyle business. The rest of Russia is in the business of being Russian. And I have to tell you, you go to these train stations, and I did the classic planes, trains, and automobile tour of Russia. We did it all. And I stopped at one train station, and an entire car was full of guys heading to the front. They were either going as part of Wagner or people volunteering for various the volunteer units. These are, one was a 51-year-old former Russian Marine who just said, I can't sit at home while this war is going on. And he found a way to volunteer and get in there. When we landed in Kazan, there are trainloads of Kazan, boys heading to the war, and their families were out there giving them the big hoorah on their, sending them off. Russia's alive. Russia is well. Russia is populated by people who believe in Russia, who have faith in Russia, who define the Russian soul. And that's a point that has to be driven home. I think there's a lot of people that think out there that Russia is full of a lethargic, apathetic population that is ignorant and not aware of what's going on. These guys know exactly what's going on. They know, the good, the bad, and the ugly of their government. They're not all happy with. They like Putin. They recognize that Putin has saved Russia, that Putin is the savior of Russia, but they're not happy with the people around Putin. They recognize things about them that they don't like. They would like to see things different. But if you ask them to choose between supporting, an inadequate Putin government or supporting the collective West, they're going to rally around Putin. That's why he has unbelievable levels of support. The Russians are for Putin. The Russians are for Russia.
Alexander Wolf, who's watching on YouTube, asks, what would be an adequate response to the latest attacks on Moscow?
Take out a decision-making center and continue to slaughter Ukrainian troops on the front line until the Ukrainian army collapses and the war ends.
Roger Codger, what is the blue print banner over your right shoulder? It might be left to the way people are watching on their monitors, but anyway.
That is Football Club Akhmat. They are a professional football club, plays in the Russian Premier League equivalent, the Akhmat team out of Grozny. And while we were there, we were guests. We were invited to watch them play the team from Khimki, which is a Moscow suburb, and they won the game 3-0. It was a thrilling match, but I was their guest. They honored me with not just the scarf, but the coin of their founder, Akhmat Kadyrov, the first president. He was assassinated in 2004. His son Ramzan Kadyrov has taken over since then. People can criticize them all they want. Just go take a look at a photograph of 2002, what Grozny looked like, the most destroyed city in the world at that time, and walk through the city that I experienced when I was there just a week ago. And you'll understand that there is no criticism. Chechnya is thriving. The people are healthy, wealthy, and wise. They're at peace. And you showed a video earlier of me walking around a facility, not just where we got to do shooting and stuff, but I was given the honor and privilege of inspecting the Presidential Guard for Ramzan Kadyrov, and they introduced me to these guys. These were the veterans of Mariupol, the people who captured Mariupol, and they're heroes. And it's one thing that I'll be talking about. When we talk about Russia, you got to understand it's 150 plus different ethnic groups and linguistic groups and a large Muslim population, and the Christians and the Muslims in the Russian Federation get along just fine.
All right, let's do one more question. This is from Truth Hopeful Seeker, something like that, watching on YouTube. You being a book author and a well-known one who has returned to Russia with a bit of a cold, apparently, have you had a chance to meet other book authors from Russia within Russia?
I got more than a chance. I met with the Writers Union in Moscow, so that was an honor. Somewhere I have a statue of Pushkin that they gave me to commemorate that the visit, but it was the Writers Union. I got to meet with the writers, and then everywhere I went in Russia, other authors came up. I was given a fantastic tour of Lake Baikal by a guy who wrote the book on the Irkutsk American Company. He back when Alaska was part of Russia, he wrote a book. He did an expedition that went from Lake Baikal and then to Alaska down to Sitka, and he wrote a great book about this. So I got to meet him. I'm going to try and help him get his book published into English language. It's a wonderful book. I think Americans would benefit by reading it. It's just a fantastic story of this expedition to capture this moment in time and to improve relations between Russians and Americans. It's right up our alley, Jeff. So that said, okay, so what's the next question?
All right, let's get one more in here. This is a good one. I think the most abusive insult made against Russia from the West, especially from America, was to claim that Putin is a war criminal. Americans showed their true colors in saying this. What are your thoughts, Mr. Ritter?
Vladimir Putin cannot be charged under any jurisdiction as a war criminal. He has not committed a war crime. People are trying to say that he, as the leader of Russia, that the special military operation was an illegal act of aggression. I've written about this. I will continue to write about this, and I will continue to speak about this. It was a complete justifiable action under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, under the doctrine of preemptive self-defense. And Russia is able to articulate a clearly cognizable case for this, far more cognizable than the case made by the United States to illegally invade Iraq in 2003. George W. Bush is a war criminal. Barack Obama is a war criminal. We can just go to Bill Clinton as a war criminal. These are people that, if they were ever taken before a jurisdiction of competence, they can't, because the United States won't join these jurisdictions. But if they ever were, it's a slam dunk case against them as war criminals, as participating in the gravest war crime of all, which is a war of aggression, from which all other war crimes come from. Vladimir Putin has not carried out a war of aggression, so it's a singular insult to accuse him of doing such. But they're not even, the International Criminal Court didn't even do that. What they've done is they've accused him of kidnapping children. I want these people, anybody who believes this is the case, to understand that when this war started, there were hundreds, thousands of Ukrainian children abandoned in the war zone, orphans, many of them. And what the Russians did is take them under their protection. They evacuated them from danger and sent them into camps. The camps are pioneer camps. They're camps that are designed to receive children and to give children healthy things to do, to take care of children, feed children, provide housing for children. And they closed them down for Russian children so that these Ukrainian children would have a place to stay. And then the Russians have sought to find the lawful guardians of these people. You don't kidnap kids, treat them the way the Russians are treating. And then when people show up and say, "That's my child," turn them over to the children, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Vladimir Putin isn't a war criminal. He deserves a goddamn medal from the international community for saving these children. It's the sign of the despicable nature of the International Criminal Court, the United States, Europe, and NATO, that they allow this perversion of justice to take place. The Russians are right to put Khan, the prosecutor from ICC, under a warrant for his arrest. He is a criminal. He's somebody who's using international law for political purposes. He is falsely accused a head of state of a crime that wasn't confused. And what's interesting is he's destroying the ICC in the process. That's half the problem with these egomaniacs, these narcissists who get promoted to these positions and think that suddenly they are people who are a law unto themselves. South Africa said that they're not going to enforce. In fact, South Africa may withdraw from the ICC, and I think you're going to see a lot of other nations do. This is the end of the ICC.
All right, Scott. I see we have a phone call. Dare we try this? Should we give it a shot? See if it works?
Give it a shot.
All right. Hello, caller. Are you there? Are you there?
Kaldal from Greece.
Kaldal. Hello, Kaldal.
What's on your mind, Kaldal?
Hi. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. We're
Yes,
anxiously
I am.
awaiting you to say something. Get to it, Kaldal. Come on, baby. Kaldal.
I think there's a lag.
All right. Are you still there, Kaldal? Oh, maybe she's not hearing us. Maybe that was the problem. Oh, they.
You mean we're the problem? We're the problem?
I don't know, but I don't hear her anymore.
Well, that's too bad, because Kaldal's a great person. She been very supportive.
All right. One more before we wind it up. Are you there, Kaldal? We'll give it one more shot. Are you there? No. I don't know what happened. All right, Kaldal, send us an email. We'll figure it out. We'll try to get you on next time. All right, Scott. Let's see. What else? Before we say goodbye, let's remind folks that they can get one of these handsome T-shirts, the Ask the Inspector T-shirts, modeled by the very hunky Ryan Milton. And also, what about the books? You are out of stock on the books, or are the
Nope,
books?
I got the books, and they're going to be going in the mail this week.
Okay, great. So you can get books autographed by Scott. So we'll catch up to everybody who's still waiting on their books. Thank you for your patience. Although some of you weren't patient, I don't blame you though. And Thursday night we'll be on again. While Scott was away, we launched a new show called Strange Bedfellows, and the last of the Friday night slots to be taken by them will be this Friday night, June 2nd, and the guest is Lisa Pease, and we'll be on Ask the Inspector Thursday night. And then next week, we get back to our regular schedule every Tuesday and Friday. All right, Scott, great to see you. Take care of that cold. I hope you're feeling okay. Sometimes it's just the way you sound. Other times it's draining you. Are you feeling wiped out, or it's just affecting your voice a little bit?
I'm feeling fine.
You're feeling fine. All right, that's good. Well, great to see you. We all missed you. We're so happy you made it back safely. And thanks for spending some time with us. And we'll see you Thursday night.